One of my favorite stores to go into is Hobby Lobby. They have some of the most beautiful home decor. Today's Dollar Tree DIYs are inspired by some of those pieces. And although you can find them at Hobby Lobby on sale, we're going to be creating our projects at a fraction of the sales price. Now before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you like budget-friendly home decor DIYs, make sure to hit that subscribe button right below this video. To all my current subscribers, thank you so much. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you enjoyed today's video and find tons of inspiration. Now let's get started on our first project. Our first inspiration piece is this beautiful metal planter. It is regular $29.99 and it is on sale for $14.99. This one is 17.7 inches high and 7.7 inches in diameter. This is the small version. They also have a large version, which is regularly $49.99 on sale for $24.99. And it is 28.3 inches high and 9.8 inches in diameter. It has this gorgeous leather tag on there, and they also come in a black color, so you could get green or black. For the planter, I'm going to be using this plastic bucket from Dollar Tree. It is an absolutely gorgeous color, so I will not be painting it. I want to keep it this beautiful sage green with the white inside. This one measures 7 3/4 of an inch high and around 9 3/4 of an inch across the top. Now they do have several different colors at Dollar Tree, so you could purchase a different color or even spray paint it to the color of your choice. For the legs, I'm going to be using 3 of Dollar Tree's wood plunger handles. They have this nice rounded end, and then the end that you attach your plunger to will be the end that we're going to cut. Now, I've already removed my tags and sanded it down to remove all of that glue. I'm going to be using my miter saw, and I want a very slight angle on this, so I am cutting mine at a 15-degree angle. It is just very slight. And if you don't have a miter saw, you can use like the handheld saw with the miter box. I'm going to cut all 3 of these with the exact same angle, and I'm making sure to keep them all the exact same length. So once they're finished being cut, I'm going to flip my bucket over and hold them in place where the legs are pointed outwards. Once I have it where I want it to be, I'm going to make a mark with my marker, and then I'm just holding each one up to make sure it's going to look good so I can mark all 3 places. Now mine is not going to look just like the inspiration piece, so I want to paint my legs white, and I'm using a semi-gloss white spray paint for this. Now while that's drying, I'm going to pre-drill some holes with the smallest drill bit I have. This is going to prevent the plastic from cracking when I attach the pieces together. I'm also going to pre-drill in the center at the angled end of each one of those plunger handles. This is very important because when you add your screws to it, this is going to prevent that wood from splitting, and again, to keep your plastic from cracking or breaking. Now I'm going to use some small screws as well as some washers. I want the washers to be on the inside when I attach the screws to the wood piece to keep that plastic from splitting or breaking and making sure I can get a nice tight fit for the legs. I'm also going to reinforce it using some E6000 on the wood pieces to make sure they adhere well to the bottom of the bucket. So I went ahead and put all 3 of the screws in and kind of got them started where the end piece will come out just a little bit so I can line up that pre-drilled hole for the wood legs. And then I'm going to tighten that as tight as I can and add all 3 legs, making sure that they are pointing outwards from the bottom of the bucket. To make the tag for the front, I'm using some of Dollar Tree's faux leather. Now they have black, white, and a very dark brown. I'm choosing the white, and I'm going to cut that down to about 1 inch wide, and I started off with about 4 inches long. Then I'll put the 2 end pieces together and then just round those ends off. It's going to sort of look like a Band-Aid. Then I'll place a piece of painter's tape sticky side up and tape each of those ends down to my mat so that I can paint these half wood beads. Now you could use the ends of some tacks and clip the pieces off. I didn't have any, so I'm going to use these half round wood beads, and this celery chalk paint is the perfect match to the bucket. So once that dries, I'm going to attach that to our faux leather tag by adding a little bit of hot glue. Once I have lined them in place, I can glue those down, and then we can attach this to the front of our bucket. And again, I'm just going to attach that using some hot glue. Now, this project is complete, and you can fill it with one of your favorite plants or an artificial plant. This one measures 23.5 inches high and around 9 3/4 inch in diameter, and it cost around $5. This project is inspired by this white floral birdhouse. It is regular $24.99, on sale for $12.49, and is actually out of stock online. It measures 9 3/4 inch high by 6.5 inches wide. It has a beautiful 3D effect with the flowers and leaves, and it has a gorgeous rustic look to it. We're going to be using one of Dollar Tree's wood birdhouses. It already has the bird cutout and a very similar design as far as the greenery and florals. I'm going to give mine 2 coats of white spray paint. Now, you may be wondering, why am I spray painting it rather than painting it with a paintbrush? I really wanted to make sure that I painted the inside of it so that when you looked at it, the inside was white as well. You'll want to let that thoroughly dry, and we're going to use some of Dollar Tree's miniature flower wood cutouts. I also have some from Hobby Lobby that I've had for a couple of years, so I am going to use the larger one from Hobby Lobby, 2 of the small flowers from Dollar Tree, and 2 of the leaf pieces from Dollar Tree. I'm going to paint the flowers with an acrylic paint in the color Calypso Coral. And then I'm going to paint the leaves with my chalk paint in the color Celery. I'm also making sure to get all of those outside edges. Then I'm going to take that same celery chalk paint and go around the outline of all of the stems and leaves. And it should be looking something like this. Now I want a little bit of dimension in the color for the flowers, so I added a little bit of white acrylic paint to that coral color, and I'm going to paint the 2 smaller flowers with that. Now once everything dries, I'm going to be attaching the larger flower right over the cutout at the top, and it's almost a perfect match. I'm going to hot glue that down and then hot glue one of these smaller flowers on top of that with the petals kind of going in between the larger flower petals. I'll add that 3rd flower on there, and then I'm going to glue the leaves at the very bottom of the largest stem. Now I'm going to make sure to remove all of my glue strands. I'm going to use my hairdryer to do that, and I'm going to tape the top handle part because our inspiration piece has a rusty tin roof look. So I'm using some acrylic paint in the color Brown Oxide. It's going to give it a very thin, light brown coat, and you'll want to make sure that that dries. I'm also going to be dry brushing a few little distressed marks around it, and if you have never dry brushed before, you just want to dab the tip of your paintbrush into a little bit of paint and then wipe most of the excess of that paint off so there's very little left on the tips of your brush, and then you'll very gently go around the piece and create some distressing. And I did this around the entire piece. Now that my paint has dried, I want to make that rusty looking roof. To do that, I'm going to use some Mod Podge and some cinnamon, adding a nice even layer of Mod Podge over the roof. While that is still wet, you'll want to sprinkle your cinnamon directly over top of that. And I did this over a paper plate so that any of the excess cinnamon I could reuse on the other side. So you'll just shake that on there generously and then kind of tap it and shake it to remove any of the excess cinnamon, and do the exact same thing on the other side. Make sure you let that thoroughly dry. It's going to give you that beautiful color and texture of rust. Now my piece was 6 inches high and about 3 5/8 of an inch across, but it only cost me $2.50 to make. This project is inspired by this Floral Stems frame decor piece that sells for $25.99. It is 16 1/4 of an inch high by 13.19 inches wide. It features a detailed sketch on a piece of decal edge paper, which is raised above the white backing to give it some dimension. I'm starting off with a piece of cardboard so I can have a nice, sturdy, thick piece, and I'm using this 5x7 wood plank from Walmart as a guide to trace out. Now you can cut this out with a pair of scissors, but I want that design, so I'm using some Fiskars paper edgers, and you can find these at Walmart, so I can get that design around this cardboard piece. Now it's really not made to cut cardboard. It's mostly made to cut paper, but I found that it's easier if you just trim it pretty close to your line, then go over it with the edgers to give you that design. Then I'm going to take some white acrylic paint and give this 2 very thin coats, keeping my brush strokes at a very minimum and making sure I paint the outside edges. Once that has thoroughly dried, you can draw on this and draw out your floral design, but if you can't draw, you could use a stencil. I'm going to be using one of these wildflower stencils. This came from Temu, and I picked out the design that closely resembled our inspiration piece. I'm just going to set that on the cardboard and then using a pencil trace the inside lines of the stencil. Then I can remove that stencil, go back over and darken up any areas that I want to darken, add in some shading right there at the bottom of each of the flower petals. And I also filled in most of the flower stems to darken them up. You can just really get creative with this and make it your own. This is how mine turned out. Now we're going to use one of Dollar Tree's 8x10 frames. And I'm going to take everything from the inside, kind of set it to the side. This has a gorgeous brown color with a gold undertone to it, so it matches almost perfectly with our inspiration piece. And I'm going to cut down a piece of poster board to the size of the backing that was on the frame. And I'm going to set this on top of my glass with the dull side of the poster board facing up. So the glass is going to give me a little bit more sturdiness in the frame, but I want the poster board to actually be in front of the glass. Then we can take our cardboard piece and attach it on top of our poster board. And to do that, I'm using some foam mounting tape. And this is a double-sided sticky tape. It's going to elevate it up and kind of stick it off of the frame a little bit more. And then once you stick it down or once you press it there, it's going to stay. So you want to make sure you have it in the right spot. But this project only cost us around $2.50 to make. Hobby Lobby has this gorgeous rustic watering can flower pot. It is regularly $31.99 on sale for $15.99, and it measures 9 1/4 inches high by 14 3/4 of an inch wide. Now it is out of stock online, but I did see this in the store, and I think that we can create something fairly similar but not exactly the same. We're going to be using one of Dollar Tree's large wire baskets. It measures 9.06 inches in height and 9.06 inches in diameter. One of their smaller wire baskets, which measures 4.13 inches in height and 7.87 inches in diameter. And one of Dollar Tree's small clip cups. They have a couple of different sizes. This one is about 2 inches tall, and this is in the office section of Dollar Tree. You're going to need one large metal garden hook and one of the smaller metal garden hooks. These come 2 in a pack, but we will only need one for this project. We're going to take the clip cup as well as the smallest garden hook. We're going to drill a hole at the bottom of the clip cup, so I'm just making a mark off to the side. I'm going to set this up on some wood to protect my table. Once I drill the hole through, I'm going to flip it over and kind of make sure I push that metal back through so it's kind of nice and cleaned up. You just want the hole big enough to be able to stick this garden hook through. So we're going to stick it in through the bottom and then loop it around till it gets like the top sits inside of the cup. So it should look something like this. To hold it in place, I'm going to use some hot glue. And I'm just going to put that on the tip. I want to be able to keep it straight so that I'll be able to put more glue through the hole, because I drilled my hole just a little bit larger than the garden hook. So if you drill a little bit smaller hole, it will sit tightly. I'm going to fill in that hole with some hot glue. I'm going to do that on the inside as well as on the bottom to make sure I have a nice strong hole. Once my hot glue cools down, I'm going to cover that up with some black chalk paint. This is going to give it a nice finished look, and it's going to look like weld marks, so where the two pieces are welded together rather than glued. So I'm going to do that on the bottom as well as in the inside where I have glued all of the pieces together. And this is going to be the spout for our watering can. Now my watering can is not going to look exactly like our inspiration piece, but it's going to be somewhat similar. So we're going to set that to the side. We're going to take the largest wire basket and the smaller wire basket. We're going to flip the largest one over and set the smallest one on top of the bottom of that basket. Then we're going to take that large garden hook. You want the largest hook part at the top and the smaller hook towards the bottom. So I'm going to feed this through the outside of the bottom wire basket and then feed it back through at the bottom. So it's about 5 holes up from the bottom. And then the top one, we're going to feed that piece through, and it's about 3 holes up from the bottom of the smallest basket. I'm going to secure that with some E6000 between the two baskets to make sure I get a nice hold around that rim, and then to reinforce it, I'm going to add in a few zip ties. So I'm trying to be meticulous about how I place the zip ties so that the little piece where the two connect are inside of that smaller basket and that I can kind of twist them around to hide them a little bit. I'm going to do that on one side and then I will do it on the other side. So I end up adding about 3 zip ties between the top basket and the bottom basket, and make sure you go back and cut off your excess zip tie. Now we're going to take our spout. We're going to feed that hook through the bottom basket on the opposite side of our handle, and then we'll feed it up through the top basket. And depending on how far you want the spout to stick out, will determine how far you want to put the hook in at the bottom of the basket. Now we'll go back and make sure that we secure all of our hooks with some zip ties. I'm going to make sure to add one at the top basket as well as the bottom basket. Again, I'm trying to make sure that I am meticulous about how I place these so that I can turn those tabs to places where you can't see them. I'm going to add a zip tie to that top largest garden hook as well as the bottom part of it. And if you want yours to look more like the inspiration piece, you could always paint it, but I love the way it looks all black, so I'm going to leave mine just as is. I am going to set a plant down in the top basket, and to disguise the hook in the spout, I'm going to add a little bit of greenery. You guys let me know what you think of project number 4. Our next project was not inspired by a piece from Hobby Lobby. It was actually inspired by our previous project. They look so good together and I can't wait to show you guys. So you're going to take one of those larger wire baskets from Dollar Tree and go about 2 inches down from the bottom and then just start squeezing that wire together. It is very easy to move this wire around. It's not super hard or super sturdy. So you're just going to want to push that in. We are trying to form the shape of a cup. If you need to, you can push from the inside out to kind of round that top part out. But I found that by taking the top and just kind of pushing it down and then squeezing the bottom in some more and kept doing this until I got the shape that I liked. Then we're going to take one of Dollar General's small metal planter buckets. This one was for $1 at Dollar General. Now you could use a real plant in this, but I'm going to use some floral foam and some stems from a bundle from Hobby Lobby because I want it to be nice and full and flowy in such a small container. Then we're going to take some of Dollar Tree's micro LED lights. Now these are battery operated, so if you decide to put this outside, I recommend that you purchase an outdoor lights rather than use these ones from Dollar Tree. I'm actually going to have mine sitting on a covered porch, so I think that it will be okay. But again, if you're going to put it outside in the weather, I would definitely recommend purchasing some outdoor lights for this. You're going to need 2 packs of those lights, and I'm just going to wrap them around my greenery, going in opposite directions for the wires. And I find that it's just easier to turn the lights on so I can know exactly where they are as I am placing them inside of the greenery. You're going to want to leave a little bit of length on the very ends and then very loosely twist the 2 wires together. Now, this small container as well as those 2 battery packs fit perfectly inside of the wire basket. You could take the lights, feed them down in your greenery, and keep this just as is, just for this project. Or you can take those end pieces and tuck them down into the water spout of your watering can, and it makes a beautiful light waterfall. I hope you enjoyed today's projects, and if you have a favorite, let me know in the comment section down below. And by the way, thank you guys so much. We have reached over 100,000 subscribers. Thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for spending time with me today. Please take care, and I'll see you guys next time.